So cool, man. So look, let's hop into it, man. So our goal for this conversation, and again, the other thing you can do is in the Q&A, start to drop your questions. What we're going to talk about is sales and marketing support. And we're going to talk about how marketing can support sales more effectively and what they can do. And this seems like, I feel like this is one of those topics that like people look at and they go, I should care about this more. Like, you know, like it could 100%. Move the needle, but they're so used to just doing it on their own. And then on the flip side, you know, it's, you know, how can sales now support marketing? And again, for me, I don't know what it was, because I'm kind of the sales angle. You're the non-sales angle. But you know, the people that we have coming in here is we've got. It looks like, I think someone from your team, Mike.
Yeah, I want to grab my link. That's Dom. Right. She's new to the team.
All right.
Yeah, we can
shoot her a note to join the other. We can DM her. We'll take care of it. We'll take care of her. So for me on the sales side, I've always been interested in marketing, right? So I've always had like I don't know, like I read like, what's his name? Seth Godin. I was like really into Seth Godin because I could see it. I could see how much sales helped me, or how much marketing techniques would help me in sales. So I've always kind of had that like mindset behind it. So we're going to hop in again, take all your questions, sales and marketing again, keep dropping the questions in here. All right, good. I think she got it figured out.
She did.
That's good.
I'm the same way, by the way. So I'm obviously, you know, more of a marketing focused person, but I've always been interested in sales. And that goes all the way back to, you know, when I worked at the first agency I worked at, we were like a true lead generation agency. And I ended up working with sales teams more often than the marketing director. They're actually more like relaxing to work with, because I wanted to know, are these leads quality? That's what we're being graded on. And the marketing team just looked at volume. And I know we'll get into that a little bit, but it was the salespeople that I would understand the health of that client relationship by talking to the sales team. If they were in a good place, I knew that we were going to continue on our engagement month after month after month. And that's all that mattered.
Dude, I love that, man. And that segues in. So again, start dropping your questions here. If you're a marketer, you're in sales enablement or whatever, and you're kind of trying to figure out how to get marketing involved, like we're going to try to give you guys some tips, and vice versa. If you're in sales and you're like, oh my God, it'd be so great if my marketing team would actually like pay attention, like drop the question in there. Like we'll try to tackle all this stuff as we get into it. So, you know, I want to start with this statement. So you and I had a quick conversation yesterday, and I really appreciated it. And I did a quick post on it. You know, you said that every marketing person should sit with the sales team for a month. Okay. So you really believe, and again, if you're in marketing, I'd love to hear your take on this, that marketing should go, you know, why should they do that? Why should marketing invest time in sales or invest time in CS? Like why and what would they be learning during that month?
I think one of the things that marketers, and they'll love it, by the way, like this is the most important part. Like it sounds terrible at first, but there's two good pieces of news. One, you don't have to do it forever. and then two, nobody talks to customers more than your sales team or your support team if you're in SaaS or something like that. But like if any other traditional sales, you know, scenario, whether you're selling products, services, or whatever, nobody talks to customers as much as your sales team, and you never talk to customers.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're a marketer, ask yourself, when was the last time you had a physical, either face-to-face or Zoom or whatever conversation with a customer? And you're out there making all these assumptions about their state of mind, what motivates them, what their pain points
personas that you're building in a vacuum.
Yeah. And it's all in this weird, like, vacuum, right? Like, and so the reason why I believe in it, there's two reasons. One is because I tried it and it worked. So that's step one. But step two is just to step outside of yourself and your regular experience. The key to being a good marketer, in my opinion, is being able to think differently. And the only way to think differently is to make sure you have different experiences. And that's what changes like how you approach problems or whatever else, whether that's, you know, getting out of the office and going on a run, or like, you know, I don't know, playing on a farm or something. But you have to change up your lived experiences to think differently. And one of the best ways to do that at work as a marketer is to join the sales team. So when I was at Nutshell, which is my previous job, I was the head of growth at Nutshell, which is a CRM company. Some of the audience here might know Nutshell. I'm sure.
Remember Nutshell, man? Yeah, for sure. We had a client, man. This is like 2014, I think, is the first time I ran. 2013, 2014, I ran into Nutshell for the first time.
I bet there's more Salesforce people on the call, but but anyway. So one of the things I was trying to figure out when I got there, I mean, they had been in business for 10 years, and as the growth leader, obviously they wanted growth, and they'd kind of tried everything in the past. And so when you come into an organization like that, you have to start examining execution. And so what I wanted to know, first of all, was like, what is really like motivating our customers either to get a CRM for the first time or switch. They're usually switching from one CRM to another. There's something about that other CRM that they don't like. And the only way for me to really do that was to go and join the sales team. The other thing I was trying to prove out was that if we added more capacity to our sales team, that we would simply close more deals. We were taking on 1,200, 1,500 trials a month, and we only had one salesperson at the time. And the company was kind of trying to do the self-serve model, right? A lot of SaaS companies trying to like short the sales team angle, not have to pay for the bodies, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
I wanted to prove to leadership that like, I don't think that's how that works. It's a complicated product. They have complicated problems. Like they need to talk to a human being. And so I joined the sales team for, at least a month, or actually at the end of I probably was like 3 months, almost a full quarter, where first I did nothing but qualifying calls. Then I did nothing but demos. And then I actually joined the support team a little bit and answered support calls, right? Just to get a real sense for like who our customers were and what their problems. And what I figured out, by the way, I learned more in that time about why people need a CRM. Obviously I know why they need a CRM, but like why they think they need a CRM and the problems that they're running into than I would have learned in 2 years of just being a marketing person. It was
and just sitting there and guessing and just learning through just learning through trial and error, which I think is what kind of a lot of marketers are just used to learning, right? They're used to learning through trial and error. So I know so it looks like we got a mix here. We got a mix of some marketers in here. We've got some sales managers in here. What's up, Phil Johnston, et cetera. Again, so start dropping in your questions here as we go through. We've got a CMO. So step one is, I think what you're getting at is it's marketing not being involved in sales means marketing is disconnected from the customer, right? And and therefore disconnected to the feed, like what people are wanting to do, et cetera. Is there a light version of that? So I think a lot of marketers might hear that and be like, look, dude, we're a marketing team of 5 or 10 or whatever at a big company, or 20 or 30 or whatever. Maybe it's 2, 1. And they might be like, that sounds great in fairyland and Candyland, but like, I got shit to do. I got MQLs I'm supposed to be generating, I don't have the time for all this crap, sitting. So is there maybe Mike, is there like a light version of this that you've seen people do? Cause I agree. I think, gosh, man, just imagine how much that investment pays off in 9 months, 12, 24 months, right? Like, and I think that's where a lot of people struggle is they feel so much pressure now. So any light version of that you think people could execute that would also get maybe not the exact same results, but something similar?
So I'll say 2 things. So one, yes, I think we can come up with a light version. But before we jumped on today, I was thinking about like a phrase that like the most often heard phrase when this conversation comes up, right? And it's sales and marketing alignment.
Alignment. Marketing and sales alignment.
Which is another excuse, which is really just another way to say we meet once a month. Which is,
yeah, what do you mean? We're totally aligned.
We're totally aligned.
I meet with the SDR manager. I meet with the head of sales. Oh no, we're tight.
So the 2 things I'll say is, one, tough, do it, make the time for it. What you're doing, it's worth doing it the full way, I guess would be the one. Like that would be the.
I love that. Yeah,
because if you're not going to do it and you're going to kind of do it half-assed, then don't. Then just keep doing what you're doing, and I'm sure it's successful, right? Because your company's in business, and like there's ways to be successful. However, let's come up with a light way, like a light way to do that. I would do it then maybe like 1 day a week, or set a goal for yourself. Maybe to say in 30 days I want to talk to at least 10 customers, and then do customer interviews yourself. So much more like an agency would do, I guess, would be the light version of that.
Yeah, why not? Yeah, just
you can do it on a schedule. You know what I mean? And you don't have to be like, answering the phone or moving pennies, like that kind of thing. For the marketing people, by the way, don't know what moving penny means. When you got to make cold calls, by the way, you get a stack of pennies, you move them to one stack, then you've made 10, then you move another stack, you made 10, you do that 10 times, now you made 100 phone calls in a day.
Yeah, wow. I've never done that before.
You don't do the moving pennies thing? I
just did a tick sheet. I always had to have a tick sheet, which is kind of like the more rudimentary version of swinging pennies or moving pennies.
It's probably cleaner, by the way, because pennies are super dirty. The other thing I want to go back though real quick, and like the one thing that I also think that joining the sales team for whatever a lot of time, maybe just a week, right? Like if you can do that, but what I want you to do if you're a marketer is I want you to be on that team, because the other thing that you're going to start to understand, which I think marketers miss from time to time, is and in the inverse as well, it's like these 2 teams don't understand like how hard their jobs are, and they're different types of hard. So you get a real strong appreciation for why, when you put up an experimental campaign, a demand gen thing, and it creates a batch of like 250 shitty leads.
Air quote,
MQLs,
air quote
SQLs,
leads.
whatever, however you're defining them. But when you create those leads, somebody has to call those people. And like when you are picking up the phone and dialing all day long, or setting up Zoom meetings, or setting up discoveries, or like however you're doing it, if you've never done that before in your life, you don't know how demoralizing 100 terrible phone calls can be. I mean, it's
wow. Maybe these things. Wow. Maybe because Janice downloaded our ebook. Oh my, wait, she's not hot. She's not a hot prospect. Like, right. Oh my God, Jacob, my word. I can't believe that Janice is like, what did I download?
You're lying.
Yeah. What do you mean? Yeah.
It's like, so walk a mile in somebody else's shoes, and then you'll have respect for it. In the the other direction, right, is what salespeople don't see is how many campaigns failed to get the one that actually got the lead, crappy or otherwise, exactly, by the way.
Right.
And like all the iteration that goes behind that. And so while I don't necessarily recommend that you take sales folks and like put them on the marketing team and like make them build a nurturing campaign or run an AdWords campaign, like I don't think that's actually as helpful. Just the connectivity between the two will start to have a shared experience, and that shared experience will release a lot of that like animosity, because everybody's got to take out the trash, right? I mean, at some point everybody works.
Well, I think, I mean, look, I'll again, on the sales side, let me tell you what I think about this. I think that I don't know. Again, I think, look, I was so lucky. I think about like kind of like the first sales jobs I had to generate my own meetings, close my own deals, and manage my own accounts. And, for 5 years, right? 5, 6, before I became a VP of sales, really. And even when I was a sales manager, I managed teams that were full cycle. And what this gave me perspective into was the idea of nurturing. And what I feel like so many salespeople have it's like, if they're not qualified now, then it's over. And I feel like we have lost our way about like, I remember, man, once I was about, I tell new reps this, once you're about 6 months into the job, dude, you should be setting half your meetings with people you did meetings with 6 months ago and starting to close those deals. Right. And everybody who's been in sales understands that. So what I feel like sales can take from some of this is you need to be nurturing people. You need to be having yourself out there, putting yourself out there under, these nurturing campaigns to stay on top of people. And I feel like that to me is the one piece. If you want to know, if you're in sales and you want to borrow one thing from marketing, I promise you that if you do what I'm saying and you build out nurturing sequences, whether you're using what marketing already has or you're building something out in outreach or whatever, you're going to have 20 to 30% more pipeline every single month than your counterparts in 6 to 12 months. 100%. And that's a marketing play. You know what I'm saying? That's a total marketing play. So I think we've got to kind of look both ways. Let me and I'll just I've got some more questions here. And again, everyone, keep the questions coming. We've got some that are starting to kind of filter in here. Becca liked that Janice is not hot. Ha ha. Yes, that's right. Because Becca's in our marketing team. So she's like, what do you mean these leads aren't the hottest leads? They're all the best. Hot as in a hot to buy versus physically attractive.
Physically attractive.
Just to clarify in today's day and age. Okay. So, well, really it should be any day and age. So the other thing, and this is something, and again, like I was the biggest pain in the ass salesperson because I looked for every angle.
I don't believe it.
Yeah, no shit, right? Like I looked for every, and that's why I was really successful too. Like I looked for every angle. So one of the plays, and this just reminded me of it on the flip side. If I was in sales, I would go to marketing. I'd say, what's our best performing ad set? What are our best performing ad groups? What collateral? And then I would just go use that messaging in sales and outbound. Right. Go use all the data. I think that this is a completely untapped area. All you marketers are going out and doing all this paid boop, 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 boop. Why aren't you sharing that data of what's working, what's not with sales? You think that'd be helpful?
Yeah, it would be 1,000 times helpful. And that's like, one of the things I think that a marketing team can bring to a sales team, or what you could learn from a marketing team, would be marketers by their nature are iterative and built to test things. It's what we're supposed to do, right? Particularly in the digital age, which is to say we've got a limited amount of budget. Let's siphon a little bit of that off, run a test, see how people behave or how it performs, and then do it again and rinse and repeat. It's always this on cycle. And what I see salespeople do way too often is where they miss out is they don't think that like the mistake I think they're making is they don't think that their sales process, like not the stages in your CRM, right? But like your personal approach to sales is not repeatable. It absolutely is. You should be able to build your own system for yourself. And then if you were to put a new person into your system, it should work. And that's what makes a good sales leader, of course, but it also makes your life easier by just figuring out what subject line in a follow-up email actually gets that reply more often than not.
Why wouldn't you do this, my friend? So if you're in sales or sales enablement, like I know I've got Natalie joined, and there's a few others, go to marketing and just ask them, hey, can you just send me our top 5 performing emails from the last 2 months? Hey, can you send me the top? And then I would just rip all of it off. Again, like this is just me always looking for the angle, right? Yeah, but always, it's just like, why would it's like, I had a new hire straight out of college. He'd interned for us a little bit. And I said, look, let me tell you the most important thing that you need to know in this job. It's called Google YouTube. Okay. The most important skill that anybody graduating college, like I told my kid's 6, he just started kindergarten. I'm like, all I want him to learn, like pretty soon, is just Google YouTube. Like it's learn. And just borrow best practices from each other. And I think that's part of it. Is like, you don't have to, even if your executive team is aligned, I think you can't sit there as a seller and rest on your laurels, right? You can't sit there and just be like, well, they didn't spoon feed that to me, so whatever. Which segues into, we've got a question here on the marketing side. So that's my diatribe about sales. Sales, go steal the marketing data and help it to better influence what you're doing on the sales side, whether it's outbound messaging, what value props are working with current customers. The last thing I'll touch on actually before I go to this question, one thing you mentioned that I think is actually an issue with marketing is they only do the current customer. I see this is the most common when they say, what do you mean, Mike? I talk to customers and they only talk to current customers. And what you get with current customers is human beings' memories are shit. Okay. We don't actually remember why we bought, like we kind of remember some things, et cetera. Right. Like, but you get a lot of bias, you get a lot of confirmation bias from current customers. And that's why I love what you talked about, which is sitting on that sales cycle, see what the no's are, versus the no's and the maybes and the deals that are dragging. That is the meat. That's the good stuff. Your current customer is going to tell you what you want to hear. Who's the person that said no, or where's the hang up? Right. Because that's as a marketer, by the way, for those listening, that's what you're trying to resolve with your messaging and creative or whatever else, right? Is identifying what's stopping someone from taking that next action. And that's right. Couldn't agree with you more. If you talk to just existing customers like an agency would, all you're going to get is the good stuff. You're going to get 100%. That's right. You're going to get 100% bias. You're going to get people that are going to tell you what you want to hear. You're a current customer. You think you want to bitch and complain, and then all of a sudden, then that marketer goes and tells the CS rep, and then the CS rep's like, "Oh man, forget John. John just talked all this trash." Like anyway, so I won't belabor it. So if you're in marketing, talking to current customers just isn't enough. It's not going to give you the real meat. You're going to get a ton of bias in there. So I'm done with that one. Okay. Here's my question. What are some of the most important things marketing can learn from sales and sales can learn from marketing? So we've talked about like 19 things. Let's try to distill it down to maybe top 1 or 2 for each. So top 1 or 2, and maybe we'll go back and forth. So let's do marketing can learn from sales. What do you think are the top 1 to 2 things marketing can learn from sales? I think the top 1 to 2, like just what we talked about, why people say no. Why people say no. Document that shit right now, all my marketers, right? Why people say no. I know hearing that is probably like a punch in the gut to you, marketers. That's why you don't do it, right? You don't do it. We're all coddled, failed artists. And so, sales pay, trust me, sales leaders avoid it like the plague too. CEOs avoid it like the plague too. I don't see anybody CEO on LinkedIn. I'm like, this is why people say no to us. It's human nature. So I love this idea. So embrace why people say no more, if not as yes. I love that one. Another one. So the second thing I think that the marketing team can learn from the sales team, and when I say this, it comes with a little context, right? But is to sell more. Today's marketers get a little stuck in the education phase, right? Like the way in the marketer's mind, for the most part, you view your funnel as this kind of like perfect thing. Right? This lovely journey where I get to drive you with organic traffic or a paid ad, and I pull you onto a piece of content, and right. You're so wowed by my ebook that you can't wait to set that demo and all that kind of stuff. And never in there do you actually ask for the
like ask for the sale. You get so stuck. So what I think you can learn from listening to your sales team, by the way, is it'll improve your copywriting ability. Listen to them talk to prospects. Listen to how they handle objections. Again, this is the no part, right? It dovetails together, but they will help you be a better copywriter. And salespeople might not be the best copywriters ever, but it's because they copyright while they talk. And the best salesperson will write 10 ads for you in a sales conversation if you just listen to them carefully.
I love that.
So to your point, that's how the marketing steals from sales. There are 2 people, 3 people on that sales team, by the way, that are closing deals consistently with a talking point you don't know about.
That's so spot on, man. And I think it's sales because it's sometimes, I love that what you said too about education. I always think about the difference between education and persuasion. My job as a seller, and I've said this multiple times, right? My job in sales is to get you to move and do shit. I'm not here to if the job of sales was education, okay, I would pay you like $35,000 a year. You've got to get people to move. So if marketers are looking to learn like the difference between information and getting movement, it's understanding like those lines for sure.
Right. And I will say, in fairness to like my marketing sisters and brothers, in the sense that now there is this whole pool at the top of the funnel where education.
Yes, exactly. And yes, like, you're nurturing them into that.
Yeah, you got to separate the two. It's okay to do your education stuff.
Yes,
that's what brings people back. But you have to know when that like where the water's edge is, and like that's really
that's so spot on. So all mine will be, because I think your 2 were probably the best 2, but I still feel the need to talk, so I'll say something. But
I think people feel the need to listen. So I would.
What I think is what I'll add to what you just said is, what I feel like's happening sometimes, and this isn't marketing's fault, it's not sales' fault. There's so much pressure in the system to produce a lead or opportunity now.
Yes. That
this mess up here, and I've got this visual image of like an old gold pan or some, I don't know why this is what I'm thinking, that instead it's like, every little piece of sand that comes through, we're looking for an opportunity versus, letting marketing do its job of like, nurture instead of just continuing a thing, then they attend a thing and then a thing, and now they're qualified. I feel like right now it's like marketing's under so much pressure to generate leads now that it's to the detriment of the long-term education and the warming up to when people are ready, which I think again is kind of a mix of 2. So all right, we've got another question. This is from Stacy Cochran. What's up, Stacy? Hope you're doing well, man. All right, anonymous attendee, we answered you. Should SDRs be part of marketing instead of sales? Ooh, this is
what a fantastic question.
Some SDRs end up being better marketers and allowing them flexibility to grow. Stacy, great question, man. I love this one. All right, man. Well, actually, you know what? We didn't do the flip side. That's fine. We'll come back to it, which is what can sales do for marketing. We'll come back to it later. But I want to get to Stacy's question. What do you think about SDRs living in marketing versus or other than sales?
I think it's an awesome idea, because sales teams should be focused on selling, not qualifying. And if you're in the digital age, if you haven't figured out how to do I won't say that it's never perfect, right? Like getting someone on the phone is the best way to qualify them, no matter what. Yep. But if you could return the qualification feedback loop to be tighter on the marketing team, and we'll talk about this toward the end, because technically the way I address this great problem, it eliminates all these things, because it's not 2 teams, it's 1 team, and everybody works on the same team and they all work together. But we'll get to that in a minute. But I think that's a great idea. Now, the only problem with that though is, I will say, and you and I were talking about this actually just before we jumped on, is that pod scenario, right? Where you've got an AE and 2 SDRs or whatever the ratio is, and they're working together. And the AE's job, of course, is to, and if this is a sales thing, and Jake, I'll figure out what you think about this, but like I can't stand pods that only measure SDRs or BDRs on appointment set. That's a useless metric. It should be on pipeline or on, like the quality of the lead is what, because then when you get, there's just these 2 SDRs that make phone calls all day and all they do is set appointments, whether the person wants to have an appointment or not. And you can get really good at that, by the way, too. Like just getting someone to agree to have another call just to get you off the phone. It's like it's the worst sales tactic in the world. So anyway, I meandered a little bit, but I think it's a brilliant idea, because the qualification feedback loop, is this lead even qualified? Like even they're in the right ballpark, needs to get to the marketing team faster, way before, like not way before, but it just needs to get faster, because then they can marketing can pull levers that move pretty big numbers if you're running an AdWords campaign or something like that, and it's producing, we'll just say 1,000 leads a month.
Yep.
This is a ballpark. You know, if you let that run for 10 extra days, not knowing that it's producing bad quality leads, it's like another 300 leads that you paid for and are worthless. So
and clogged your system,
and
right? Those leads and clogged your system for a week or two.
Right. So
Yeah.
I think it's a great idea. There are some mechanical things that break down a little bit, but it's not a bad. Hey, like any marketer, I'd like to test it.
Yeah, I think, and a lot of this to me starts at the top. Meaning, I think almost. I think it can work anyway, assuming you have alignment at the top. And what I mean by that is, no matter what, when you don't have marketing and sales under the same department, there's a friction point. Whether it's when the initial handoff or is it the qualification, there's always this friction. So as long as you have two reasonable people at top and not adversarial people, I think it can work either way. Why I like it in marketing, I'll just kind of give my pros and cons for both. Why I like it in marketing is, look, marketing can control the lead quality. Meaning, let's say you go and hire 20 SDRs, and let's just say on average you're spending $5,000 a month with them. You guys do the math there. Okay, 20 SDRs, 5 a month. That means I'm spending $100,000 a month on people. Plus, let's toss in the ping pong and the bullshit. I'm spending $130,000 a month on these individuals to generate, let's say on average, 10. I'm making up numbers. That's 200 qualified meetings for $140,000. Or I spend the same $140,000 on events and Google AdWords. What generates more? Marketing can control the levers. Right. They can go, look, and people and SDRs are just a lever in the grand scheme of things. Where I think I think it hurts in career pathing, candidly. That if I want to get into sales, that my marketing leader ain't gonna help me do that. And so I feel like it can work, but you have to make sure you have that career development opportunity with sales. So that is the main breaking point, because I've seen it go from sales to marketing, then back to sales for that exact reason. Is that
interesting? And that's funny. I've never seen, and in my experience, to be honest, with Natalie, or who asked that question? I'm sorry, I couldn't.
That was Stacy.
Well, with Stacy. So the one thing I haven't seen a ton of, by the way, on the marketing side, is I haven't seen a ton of SDRs become marketers. Now that doesn't mean it doesn't happen. I haven't seen it myself.
But you would think they could, right?
You would. It's kind of a different look. I think everybody at some point in their life are going to work in sales and or marketing. Actually,
well, you are. You already are in sales or marketing, whether you want to be or not.
That's right. And so everyone should take an SDR role. Like I sold ads in an entertainment book. Like when I was, it was one of my first jobs, like out of college or whatever. And that type of experience just teaches you a lot of different about human behavior, but a lot of things. So, but if you want to be a marketer, I just wouldn't. I don't think I'd necessarily start you out as an SDR, but I'd want you to do it so you had that experience. It's going to be the hardest question of the day, I think, because I just don't know where I come down on that.
I think it can be. I think again, it can be either. Just as if there's dysfunction, there's dysfunction. It's just where's the dysfunction live, And I think so. I think we're both saying, it can be amazing, but again, if there's dysfunction, nothing's going to work. It doesn't matter where it lives. So Natalie does have a question though. All right. And I love it, man. Keep the questions coming. I love it. We're getting the questions. They're rolling in. What advice do you have for an enterprise B2B org that's 100% full funnel outbound and marketing in air quotes, is not talking to sales or listening to customers? They take direction from a corporate agenda, right? So this is that brand play, or this we need to get clicks and downloads. Is the better approach to go all in trying to train sales reps to become content marketers because they're actually closer to the customer? Ooh, Natalie. Love that one. Yeah, love. That's a great one. Okay, I'll hop in on this first. So I do believe that all salespeople need to understand that if they want to be really good, it goes back to that nurturing thing that I mentioned. As a salesperson, I don't know maybe it's just intuitive, or maybe it's because I did have to do all of it from setting my meetings to closing. I always ran 3 pipelines. I had I'm working them now. I'm working in for the next 2 to 3 months, or a quarter, and that these are the people that are long-term. And what I did, and this is old school, right? So I'll even, show that, I'll date myself. So what I did is this: I had a foldering system. Okay. It was called Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, first of the month. And after I ran a meeting, and let's say you were disqualified, I'd just go put you in my first of the month. Or let's say I was supposed to follow up with you in 2 weeks. I'd write the date at the top of the appointment sheet, and I put you back in Wednesday. Sure. And so I always ran a multiple funnel approach. because in my little filing cabinet, and now I'll give credit. Oh man, I cannot remember the woman who came over. She came over to my desk and she goes, Jake, you're a fucking mess. And she goes, let me teach. And she taught me this. I'm going to remember her so I can give her a love at some point. So I think content marketing to me is a different version of that. Let me tell you what I mean. Instead of me then sending a follow-up email, imagine I didn't have LinkedIn back then. LinkedIn was just starting. Now with content marketing, I can connect with all those people on LinkedIn. And by just producing one piece of content a week or two a week, I can now nurture them. The same way I had my folders where I'd have to remember to send an email. Now they get a nurture from me every time I post because they're following me. So I believe that if you're in sales, you don't need to be a full-blown content marketer, but just like how you would speak at a speaking event intelligently about your industry, I do think you should be doing that on LinkedIn. I do think that if your industry, if your people are there, that I think all sellers should be, have a little bit of that content marketing or know how to beg, borrow, and steal to, other people's ideas to do it for them. So that's my take on it.
So I suppose I'd have a question for Natalie. Natalie, if you can drop this in the chat, it would be helpful. So when you say train sales reps to become content marketers, what kind of content marketing do you want them doing? Like, so are we talking about top of funnel? Like we want those people to, are we talking about sales enablement? I'm going to assume until I see something in the chat that we're really talking about, she's talking about top of funnel. Okay.
Yeah.
So what I would do instead, rather than train your SDRs to be content marketers, because I want my SDRs making phone calls, doing the things that Jake's been talking about all day long, nurturing their prospects on a one-to-one basis or in channel like LinkedIn, doing some social work. I would just hire like freelance writers. So you have a budget for your sales team to do any number of different things, right? Whether you're creating new PDFs
I'm good with that.
Sales sheets or whatever else, I would hire a real content marketer and a freelancer. And if your marketing team isn't willing to do this for you, by the way, shame on them, for one. And two, it's a leadership problem, because if the leadership of the company don't respect and understand that like your sales team needs a marketing component to it that's not just brand.
It
brand
happens,
is different.
man. Yeah, it happens.
It does,
in
and
B2B
it's a shame.
In particular.
But I would rather than distract them from doing it. Now, look, if there's someone on the team that's really interested in wanting to do it, and let them run with it. Absolutely. If they want to do it on like quote unquote their own time, or they can still hit their numbers, or or whatever else, and reward them for that. However you can figure out how to reward them for it. But the easiest way would be to go find a good freelance content marketer on Upwork or whatever else. Hire them and embed them with your sales team, and that way you can make them sit on the sales team and learn, and then create whatever content you want. It'll be cost effective. The content will be good, and you don't have to make non-writers writers, that's an impossibility.
And that's what we do. I mean, so we've got a whole division of Scaled that where we'll basically, what we'll do is that for teams. So we'll basically take the marketing content and just chop it up into posts and then feed it to the sales team. Right. And that's exactly it. We've got a bunch of different clients doing that right now, and it works really, really well. That, and if you, like you said, if you've got some people that are active, great. And I can just tell you, we've seen a direct correlation between the people that are successful on LinkedIn and them being actual content producers versus people just doing cold DMs, and reaching out. So I think the answer is yes, they need to do it. The response is, if they love to do it, fantastic. If not, try to find ways to enable them. Right.
Yeah, no problem, Natalie. I'm glad you appreciated that. I will say this. The one thing I will add to that, though, is that every salesperson on here and every marketer on here, every one of us needs to be better copywriters. If you want to improve your skills on either side of this coin, go. And when I say copywriting, and Jake, I know you know this, copywriting is not writing. Copywriting is not like sending an email. Copywriting is a discipline and a skill like jujitsu, or I don't know, being able to count cards or something. There's a lot of science involved there, and the more that you read about it and the more you understand it, the better your emails are going to be, the better your LinkedIn posts are going to be, all that kind of stuff. So if you wanted to level up in one particular, I see a lot of sales. I think sales thought leadership is great. Whether you're talking about your what's his name, like your Jeffrey Gitomer, little Rebecca sales guy, like how to close, all this kind of stuff. That's all good stuff. But if you want to like move the needle tomorrow, be a better copywriter.
I think that it's just a must. It's also it'll be the last frontier of what the machines will automate. If you're able to write persuasive copy, it'll be the last thing that machines can automate, because all the basic bullshit, custom field here or there, like guys, give it 3 to 4 years. If that's your skill is hitting send all, bye, you don't have a job. right? I've got
Yeah.
a whole,
The marketing team could do that for you, right? Like we could set up a 10 email drip and just drop SQLs into it and then just drip them like from a fake person today, right? Like that's not even.
That's right. The robots then can look at that data and eliminate those roles too. The robots then, once they get set up, the natural language processing will get disgusting. But all right.
This is the sunny part of our talk today.
Before we go to Terminator, I mean, fuck, dude, let's be honest, guys. It's going to happen. Like all that's going to be left to sales in 10 years is the people that are amazingly high EQ and project managers. Like I can go on for like days about this, but in the meantime, marketing and sales alignment. So Phil Johnston, I like this one. I'm going to skip ahead because I think it's good. If you're building a new sales and marketing organization from the ground up, how do you balance implementing long-term scalable processes while still getting short-term results? So I think it's kind of akin to that, what I had mentioned about, paying that medium, that short, medium, long game. So how do you think about, Phil, his team, they're building this thing from scratch. How do you balance that when you're building it from scratch?
I think that it's for me, it's like an 80-20 rule.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
It depends on like, and I'm sorry for the chaos in the house, by the way. Someone just came home and my dogs are going. But I think it's an 80-20 rule. It's a resources conversation and it's a burn conversation. So if we're talking about a brand new startup or something, okay, well, work your way back from how much money you have to burn every month and what result you have to exact to keep going month after month after month to keep the business afloat. And if you're doing 80-20 and the 80% isn't getting you the short-term results, then you need to flip that to 100% until so you're not burning all your money. So I think that it's a constant balancing act. But what I will say though is, I don't know, Jake, how you feel about this, but my position is always like, do the thing that doesn't scale and see if it works. So like,
I feel like these dogs are going to run up and like jump on you. Like they're going to come out of outer space. I'm just waiting. It's going to be this awesome like Cujo moment where this dog just like comes over the top and just mauls you.
Right over this mountain over here.
I'm like, Shane, go call 911.
Mike's down.
Mike's been mauled.
The other thing I will say though is like, if you think, I love process. I'm a process guy. If it's not repeatable, it's not a real thing, right? Like success is repeatable. If only one person can close a deal one way, then like that's not a system. So you always want to be trying to build systems. Like Jake, I love the folders. Like that's a system. Every salesperson and marketer should be building their own systems, however they want to do that, which is just a methodology for solving a problem. But if you're really starting a new organization, I guess my only advice would be like, don't worry about the long-term process in the phase of you trying to figure out what works. Like a process will emerge from it. So try all the things that you think are going to have the biggest impact. And then when something does have the biggest impact, if it's one of those things that like quote unquote doesn't scale, like answering every single email yourself, or, you'll figure out how to extrapolate out the goodness from what you're doing personally and turn it into a system later. So I would just measure what you're doing and be considered in what you're doing, and then the processes will emerge themselves, the long-term stuff.
I agree. Yeah, it's like 20%. Give yourself that 20% of just experiment weird shit. Who knows what's going to happen? Posting on LinkedIn every day. We generate millions of dollars every year from organic LinkedIn posts. If you say, Jake, what's the value of a LinkedIn post? I have no idea. Jake, what's the value of that one post you did on Thursday? I'll get those questions, right? What's the ROI? I'm like, well, fucking money? I don't know. We're closing deals where, we're closing $80,000 deals in 4 days where the conversation starts with like, I don't know what you guys actually do, but I think I get it. And like, let's meet. Like, I don't know what the value, like, is that repeatable? Like, we're working on it, so right. I just think the 80-20 rule of 80% is focused on tried and true. This is what it is. 20%, let's try weird shit and break stuff. I feel like you should, but my point is that should never leave. I did a post about this. I think it was earlier this week about how I feel like we've sucked the soul and creativity out of marketing and out of sales, that we're not giving people that I think I called it playtime. The time to go out and experiment, and you have to have that in your day or you're never going to break shit. You're never going to, you will never see an arc like this, my friends, by doing this. If you're going 100% incremental, we do webinars, we do ebooks, blah, 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 traditional marketing, you are never going to see this. And that's what all of us are shooting for, is like, there's shots that can help us to do that. So, all right, man, look, we're already kind of running low on time. We've got a bunch of this. Let me just take a look at some of these. Okay. I'm going to take this one from Anonymous. Wish they had one of those masks on right now. Sales and marketing tech. It should just default to the mask, the anonymous mask. If you don't know what the anonymous
Zoom,
mask
if you're
is.
listening, by the way, which I'm sure you are, let's put that in the queue. Put that
Google that. Google it if you don't know what I'm talking about. Okay, so they talk about tech alignment. Big issue for their team. Lost data. What's the best way to get these teams and tech better connected?
Use the same tools.
Use a similar integrated tech stack and hire people that actually know what the fuck they're doing. Stop promoting marketing ops and marketing and sales ops people who like were ex Sdrs or ex brand marketers and asking them to run your marketing automation platform.
And also to marketers, by the way, to keep this
one.
real short and simple, use whatever integrates with your CRM.
Yes.
Full stop.
Yeah, I love that.
You can figure out how to like make it work. You know, if it's Constant Contact, which is not a great email marketing platform, but it integrates with your CRM cleanly and you don't have the tech resources to build an API connection, use whatever pumps into the CRM. Because what you want to know for real is not what generates leads, but what generates sales, right? A source of sale tracking methodology. So you have to get that visibility. So yeah, whatever.
Marketing automation has to integrate. I think that's good. And I'll tell you, so what we did, there's an exercise you can do. Actually do this, DM me, go to LinkedIn and DM me. Maybe I'll make this public because we made it a template. You know what we did a big project with a company, GLG, who you might know. It's a big professional services org. And what we did with them is we mapped every single buyer journey between what comes in marketing and marketing should nurture only, what goes marketing and then should go to sales, and what should go to sales. We just created this Excel sheet. And we basically then said, what's the ideal workflow for this? And how do we implement this with technology? So I feel like everything starts with the buyer journey. So if you're trying to get these tech to sync, don't start with the tech, start with the buyer journey. Okay, so we have buyers who are going to come in like this. How do we automate or aggregate or do as much as possible? That's where that marketing automation and CRM sync are 100% of it. Then you have your next tier, which is marketing automation that should then go into sales engagement platforms. It should go from Pardot through Salesforce into outreach. And how do we build those automation rules again to get from interested to person as fast as possible? Then you have these people. And it's how do we make sure that data from the sales engagement feeds back into the system to where once they finish the sequence, they go into the marketing automation nurture sequence number 7. And so I feel like when you start with the intent, which we talked a little bit about that, hey, who are the people we just need to nurture? Then who are the people? And then once they trip over X, we should interact with. And then who are the people that sales should engage with? You then find the sales and you then find the tech needs. And that's, again, it was a big project, but again, we really did a good job of kind of looping back in and saying, okay, what's the idea? Oh, well, let's automate getting them from Salesforce to here so they don't get an email alert or whatever it is, or we'll do both. We'll create a trigger in Salesforce that will email them, but it'll also go into their outreach sequence number 7, which is for inbound leads. And so anything you think is possible with tech is probably possible today, right? And so I feel like a lot of people right now are just, there's so much manual stuff, man. I see it in that inbound handoff process. Woof. It's either really, really good or really, really great for some people.
I have a team, by the way, that is currently there's one person that vets every inbound lead and then assigns it manually to somebody on the sales.
Because they're the smartest person in the room. God forbid you could just that scales.
Let it go. Yeah. What question are you asking them? I'll put it in the form.
That's yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, it's like my gut. Look, John, I know the business. I know the business better than anyone. Okay. All right. Thoughts on marketing roles post lead acceptance. How can they help AEs close? Standard sales cycle, 12 to 18 months by Mr. Johnny Barrett. It's a great name. I like that name. Johnny Barrett. I feel like you could do a lot with that. You could be in radio. You could be, I don't know. It's a good one. All right. Thoughts. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like a like a really good high school, college quarterback.
Yeah, absolutely.
Johnny Barrett. Number 19. Anyway,
sorry, like Johnny. A made-for-TV movie. Sorry, Johnny. On your name.
Thoughts on marketing's role post-lead acceptance? These are basically saying like big enterprise deals. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, my thoughts are the opportunity there for your marketing team. So this goes back to something you and I started talking about before, which is if your marketing team's not actually connected to your sales team, like really connected, not marketing and sales alignment, we're all meeting, but like if we had a structure in which there was a demand generating marketer attached to the pod of the AE that's running that account and has an understanding of what the relationship is, I think there's a lot of role and potential for building even one-to-one email sequences, for creating custom content in more of an ABM scenario for that specific prospect, or even maybe it's just that company. Yeah. But if you're not connected, I actually say there's no role, because once that they're that, I mean,
yeah, man.
not no role, but
I get it.
It's the overarching role that marketing should be doing anyway, right? So that prospect signs up and your sales cycle is 12 to 18 months. They're on your email list, right? And so the marketing team is obviously sending, whether that's product related emails or thought leadership stuff, like they're getting that content, the 30,000 foot content that should be interesting to them about the company or about people in the company. But if you're talking about like, how do we, like marketing having a role in like a true role after lead acceptance, in targeting either individual people on that team, like multiple decision makers or whatever else, if they're not connected to you in a very, for lack of a better word, intimate way, I don't want them connected at all, because like they just get in the middle of it and muck it up.
Yeah, we'll send them some stuff. Yeah, and I think the key is, I think that's a good point. I think, or you just have to know how to act like a marketer with your sales team, like as a sales individual, which is some of the things that we're talking about. It's why I think salespeople need to understand the concept of nurturing and concept of just cold emails and calls. But what I would say is this, where we've had success starting to bridge the gap is coming up with some very basic marketing plays. So here's what I mean by that. Let's say you've got a current, potential, and a future. So instead of saying, hey, marketing, can you help me? You go to marketing and say, look, for the middle funnel, I'd like to run this 4-step play. I'd like to do this direct mail thing, host a virtual event for their sales team, do this and do this. Go. So I feel like if you help them to help you, you come to them with a plan and an expected ROI and how it's going to help them, your ability to get marketing to come across the aisle is going to be a lot easier than like, hey, marketing, I need help penetrating these 5 accounts. How can you help me? John, I don't know. We've never done that before. Well, okay. Well, I don't know either. Bye. Right. Instead, think about it. Okay. Well, what would work? Well, okay. What if we did a circle play where I sent this person this and we did this piece of direct mail? Okay. And then 2 weeks later, like just think, get creative. Make shit up. Stop being boring.
What you also could do, you could also, I mean, one of the things that's super helpful, like we talked about earlier, get with your marketing team. Like I can tell you your marketing team wants to help.
Of course they do.
No matter what. Like they like being needed, because marketing's the kind of department, by the way, that when it's working, nobody pays attention to it because it's supposed to work. Right. And then when it's not working, everyone is 3 feet inside of your body for getting pipeline to come. So, so like there's it's a lot of, so if you come to them in good times, like, hey, this is a great lead. Can you help me like nurture it? They will be so excited to do that. So that's the first thing I was going to say. The second thing is tell them why they're objecting or what you think their objections are going to be. And what your marketing team will be able to do is go unearth a bunch of content that you've never seen. They'll come to you like, oh my God, I have like a 6 blog post series on like exactly answering that question. Why don't we drip that out to them over the next like 6 months? And, and then you send it with a personal email, like a personal note, like, oh, our team just published this. You might find this interesting, whatever the case might be.
Oh, marketing already is doing those things. Exactly.
Right. You just don't know that they're doing them. And marketing doesn't know they're doing them either, by the way. They just know they're creating content.
Yep. I love that. All right. Last question here. We're going to wrap up with Mr. Arthur Castillo. What are the biggest challenges when it comes to MQL, SQL conversion for both marketing and sales? So I'll give my hot take and then I'll let you kind of take us home. Sure. I think there's a few. I think it's the constant pressure between quantity and quality that a good, well-functioning, healthy team, is okay with, understands that getting 100 shit leads isn't a win, and that it really is this balance. I also think that there's a common sense factor about like, hey, like, let's make sure that we're a common sense plus black and whiteness, meaning like, let's make sure we're aligned from a common sense span about what are the key variables that actually equal an SQL that are a little give and give to where both sides are just a little bit pissed off. You got a good agreement when both sides are just a little bit pissed off. Right. And so my advice for anyone when coming up with this process is be reasonable. Sales kind of fight a little bit for like, I wasn't really qualified. Marketing fight a little bit here. And as long as there's, again, at that level, you're going to come away with the right answer where you're giving a little bit here, you're not here. Okay, we don't need to have full bant on the first call. Maybe we just need for this first call a need and timeline. And then, and then the sales team's job is they got to go get the right people involved or whatever it is, right? Right. And that's what I think. Like sales leaders, stop being so soft. Man, what do you mean qualified lead? That's your job. Your job is to create the need. It's called sales. People are just soft, dude. You know what I mean? Like, I just can't believe, like, this whole concept to me, sorry, I'm going to go on a tirade for a second.
I love it.
This whole concept to me of, well, they weren't qualified. They didn't have budget. It's your job to create the budget. They didn't even know they had this problem. It's your job to create it, right? Like, that's why I feel like being good at sales today is like a really low bar, because like we're expecting everything to be just like lined up. So anyway, that's the sales side of it. You got to give a little bit to marketing and be like, look, okay, you're right. Sales should handle that. So that's my take, is come up with very clear black and white to where both sides are giving a little bit, to where it would be a little bit easier for marketing if you would just say yes to this, and it'd be a little bit easier for sales if they would just lower these criteria. But both sides realize, look, if you can get us this, I'll take it from there as a sales leader. And marketing agrees, yeah, you're right. We need to get it to at least here. That to me is how you handle it.
I mean, you and I are in 100% agreement. And I think on the marketing side, one of the biggest challenges is really a data challenge. So it comes from the same place that you were talking about, which is just this volume pressure, right? You know, I talked to a client a week ago that's like, we need to produce 1,000 marketing qualified leads a month. And my initial question was, why? And then they said, well, because with 1,000 leads, we'll get, 100 qualified leads, and then we're going to get 10 sales. I'm like, I'm all with the math. I get that we need to make that many calls, but if there are 1,000 bad leads, then what difference does it make? So if you, as a marketer, I think one of the biggest challenges is making sure that you're following the leads you generate through pipeline velocity.
Yep.
By channel or by campaign, even if you can get that granular. But I think too many marketers, the challenge is they don't play or spend any time in the CRM.
Yeah.
So if you don't understand the CRM, go and get in there and start to, even if you're just spot checking, right? So if you're putting UTM parameters on your, on all your ads, and it produces a lead, and all you can do is like pull that UTM parameter into a custom field in whatever CRM you're using, just go check a few and be like, oh, ask them, like, give me 10 really good leads and 10 really bad leads, and then just go spot check where they came from. Yeah. And like understand that. So in the inverse, give a little to your sales team and recognize that making, like I said before, 100 awful phone calls a day, it's going to ruin your month. Like, it's just going to be the most awful time for you. Or for them. So don't do that to them if you don't have to, or warn them. I think marketers don't even do that from time to time. Like, when I am about to turn on a campaign that I think is going to generate a crap ton of leads, but I am unsure as to their quality, which is usually the case.
Yeah.
I will warn the sales guys and ladies. I'm like, hey, I'm about to do this thing. I don't know what's going to happen, but it's a really low barrier to entry. So like, it could be the greatest thing since sliced bread, or I could inundate you with like 1,000 sweepstakes hunters who have nothing to do, like with our, our product or anything like that.
I love that.
Let me know.
Be honest.
Yeah, be honest. We're all look. The one driver here, and this is why I'll wrap my thing up. The one driver is revenue. Start measuring both teams against the same metrics.
That's it, man.
That's
it. We didn't get into it. I'm glad we didn't, because I'd go off on that again too. So look, Mike, I really appreciated it. Almost everybody stuck around for the whole thing. So that means they had to have enjoyed what we were talking about. So take a look, follow Mike and I on LinkedIn. Mike and his team are doing some really amazing work. So if you're looking for an amazing, marketing firm to help you with everything from SEO to paid, et cetera, definitely hit these guys up. Web design, they do it all. Again, everyone, just the key is to take the initiative. Whether you're on the front lines or at the executive levels, you can learn from each other. And for me, when I was a salesperson, don't sit there and wait for it. There's a lot you can do. And I think we've given you a lot of tactical advice here, both as marketers and sales leaders. So have a great rest of your Wednesday, everybody. Mike, thank you again, man. I really enjoyed it.
Thanks, Jake. That was awesome, man.
All right. Thanks, everyone.